Hey, hello everyone. You're in the office with Joseph Skoda, G.I. Joe Skoda. As you know, I'm retired Air Force and I get around and meet a lot of people. Had a wonderful career, 21 years in the military, all over the world. Got a master's degree in the military, PhD afterwards. Started a social media shows network and so many other things I'm involved with. What I would like most about my life is the people I meet. Not just veterans, but other people. And quite frankly, I meet a lot of people through probably the best organization on this planet Earth called Toastmasters. Now, let me introduce you to a good friend of mine, Eusebio Martinez, who's not only a Toastmaster, but he's a doctor, a professor, and a principal. How you doing, Eusebio?
I'm doing great. I'm trying to do my best Joe Skoda impression with the hats. I got a few more coming. So
You caught me off guard. 90% of the shows I have and do, I've got my hat on. But I'm in between studios right now, frustrating. But hey, I'll toast you to that. All right.
there you go. You got one of those. I got one of these. It's all good.
Perfect.
Let's have some fun.
It is fun. Hey, just tell our audience a little bit about where you're from and what brought you to the Central Coast.
Sure thing. I am originally from New York City, Brooklyn to be specific. Grew up there 32 years between Brooklyn and Staten Island, New York.
Yeah.
And when I decided to come out to California, it was really because of my career. I started out as a school counselor at a high school. And then at that point, we had some grandchildren that were part of our lives that were now 3,000 miles away. There's a story behind that. And it was like, wait a second, we have to be closer to them. So I took the leap, took the plunge, and did a very similar to the first time ever video interview through Skype. I had a shirt and tie on. I had shorts because you have to do that one time at least, right? And I have to tell you, 2 weeks later, I'm in a U-Haul driving 3 days across the country to come to California. Went to King City, sight unseen, clearly. So I went from New York City to one stoplight in the whole town. And I was an assistant principal there for 3 years in total, moved down to Paso Robles and then started working in Paso. And then eventually things went south with my marriage. So I ended up having a divorce. I had to make some changes and support myself and all the bills, the student loans and everything else that comes with having a doctorate. Absolutely. So I decided to take the leap and become a principal up in Greenfield, so not too far from King City where I started, so I was familiar with the population. And then that didn't work out so well. I was there the last 2 years, but now I'm actually going up to junior high school, and I'll be in Santa Maria. So same commute, but I'll be passing the beaches on the way, so can't be too mad at that.
Passing my hometown. That's pretty
right.
Good. So you interviewed over the internet. You interviewed virtually, as they say, and got the job in the town you've never been to.
Right. This was back in 2014. So 6 years before this now is really the norm and probably will be for all time, I would imagine. I don't think we're going back really to what things were. We will have some sort of internet connections and meetings like this. But back in 2014, I had that. I had asked a question. I'm like, I wasn't in a position where I could just go to California for an interview. Sure. Because then after that, you have like second interviews and things like that. There was just no way I was going to swing that. And they said, no, we can do it over Skype if it works for you. And I was like, yeah, that works for me. And within an hour of my interview, I got the call and said, when are you moving to California? And I didn't read between the lines. So I'm thinking, well, I have to get a job first and I got to get a place. And the superintendent starts laughing on the phone. And I'm like, well, what are you laughing about? And she's like, you're being silly. I'm asking you when you're moving because I want to offer you the job. And I was like, wow. So it was a 2-week turnaround. It was the end of June, the middle of June. Yeah. My contract was going to be over June 30th. And by July 1st, I was starting my contract in King City. So literally 2-week turnaround. And I'll never forget, I was closing up the U-Haul and the last thing that I left, and I said, hey guys, thank you for helping me out. You guys can have this. I don't need this where I'm going. It was my snow shovel. Didn't need that anymore. I was done. moving on to California, the Golden State, and been here for 7 years now. So it's been an adventure to say the least. A lot of changes and moves and things of that nature, but I'm in a much better place now with everything going on and running my own business, weight loss, which I know we'll talk about, and finally in a place with work that I feel like I can be there for a while and really do a lot of good things with the staff helping students out, whatever it looks like in the next month, of course.
Right, whatever school's gonna look like, we don't even know.
Right.
Do you miss the snow? Do you miss New York? I'm sure you get back occasionally.
I haven't been, actually. I have not been back. So one of the unfortunate things with my previous marriage was just not having the chance to do that. I have been to the East Coast once last year. My sister got married, and that was great. So I wasn't going to miss that. But that was in North Carolina. She lives in Charlotte. And I went there. I said, all bets are off. I have to go to this. She'll have my head if I didn't. But it was nice because my mom did go. So that was the first time I saw my mom in 6 years, 5 years, 6 years. And that was a special moment for all of us. Really, the first time I saw most of them. My siblings I see sporadically in between.
Yeah.
My sister's in North Carolina. My brother's in Ohio. We try to make things work. But yeah, a lot of family members I hadn't seen since I left New York. And we're talking again, 6 years, 7 academic years. But I would love to go back. I tell people my biggest recommendation is if you're going to visit New York, do it during the holidays. The holidays are the most special time, I think, between seeing the sights, the Rockefeller Center and the tree, the Macy's window displays, which are better than anything else you can think of, and just the entire atmosphere. And yes, it's cold and you need snow,
Yeah.
but that's part of the experience, in my opinion. I think a close, maybe not a close second, but second would be anytime spring and summer, so I can go to Yankee Stadium and watch a game. But that's that. But that's me, But definitely during the winter, I do. There are times where I'm just like, man, I'd like to be around that again. But funny thing, the last time I saw my brother, I was in Chicago.
Yeah.
And a couple of nights in Chicago, and I was starting to change my mind because that cold is serious. They call it the Windy City for good reason. That wind disrespected my jacket. It was no joke. I was like, yeah, I don't know about this cold, man. I think I got used to California by now.
It grows on you. I moved here from South Carolina. So I've driven
Right on.
several times. And I'm from Ohio. And
there you go.
Yeah. Back when my marriage didn't work in Ohio, I came back up to California.
There you
it
go.
grows on you. Never thought I would still be here. But I'm very familiar with the cold of that part of the country. Even lived up in Maine.
Right.
So I'm really excited. Chicago a couple months ago. And that means something. I used to travel a lot. Now, you say you haven't been back home in a while, but have you gone anywhere in a while?
Well, I've been enjoying the West Coast, to be honest. Coming out here, I had never been to the West Coast while I was living in New York.
Sure.
I've only ever been to like Puerto Rico, where my family's from. But really, since coming here, I'm like, you know what? This is, first of all, it's a huge state. There's so much to see. Up to Eureka and seeing the redwoods over there, which is really a sight to see. Even coming from a place with skyscrapers, there's just something about seeing those trees and being able to drive through a tree or something like that. It's just a special thing. And then, the ballparks, Oakland, down to LA and those types of things. And just trying to see California. Been to Vegas, been to Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Just really enjoying the West Coast and trying to see more of that. Sure. Beyond that, not really. Haven't been out here. I did go to Florida one time while I was first out here. It was part of my doctoral program.
Sure.
But yeah, even when in seeing my siblings, which has been nice because every time I see them, we go somewhere different. We went to, my brother lives in Dayton. So we decided when we're going to visit him, we're going to go to Louisville. Mm-hmm. We went to the Louisville Slugger Museum, Muhammad Ali Museum. So we got to see Kentucky a little bit. And then we had a trip to New Orleans. which was fantastic. I mean, it's New Orleans, right?
Yep.
And of course, seeing my sister in Charlotte, seeing my brother in Dayton. So I've done a little bit of traveling, to be honest, and just enjoying it. I think right now, especially now, I'm at a place where I feel like I want to do more of those things because I couldn't before.
Sure.
So yeah, just enjoying that, but haven't been back to New York, which it does get to me. But there's also the part of it like, hey, I don't want to go just for like a weekend. You know, I want to make a good effort, have a good time of it.
Yeah.
And with the number of people that would want to see me, I mean, that's a trip.
You need a month or more. I know a couple years ago, we were at Toastmaster Convention in Chicago, and we drove. We drove through, actually Buffalo, went through Niagara Falls, so it was a lot of fun. Well, we got to stop in Ohio and visit family. It was a real good trip. Long trip drive. Yeah. As you get older, it gets harder and harder to make those drives. I want to know a little bit more about what got you involved in education. What made you want to get involved in education and molding those young minds?
One of the themes in my life is I find myself doing things after people tell me that I can't or that I shouldn't.
Sure.
Literally, I became a counselor because actually, you know what, real quick, I'm gonna change hats just because I can. This is that's for you. But my counselor in high school tried to dissuade me from applying to a specific university I was looking at.
Okay.
I had the qualifications. I looked at everything. I was doing my own research and said, hey, I qualify to go into this school. Be perfectly honest, there was a female that I was attracted to that wanted to go there. So, of course, I was like, hey, you know, it is what it is. But in the midst of that, I asked her and I said, hey, I just want to make sure I'm good with this process. And she's like, well, don't bother applying over there. You'll never get in. She literally just flat out said that, never get in. Even with the qualifications, I knew I could see my transcript. I saw the qualifications. I said, hey, it's a match. I applied anyway. And as I look over the screen over there, there's my degree from that specific university. So for me, it was a matter of, you know, if there are people like that helping students, that's a problem. And I want to be part of the solution. So I went to school and I said, I initially wanted to go into medicine and be a medical doctor. So I'm a doctor, just not the one I thought.
I can understand.
And eventually I started working a program in the summer with students, high school students that were coming onto the campus to kind of get the experience.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I started looking into that. And then I realized I can be a school counselor, which is exactly the position that she was not doing a very good job of. And I said, I want to do that. And then from there, going to graduate school, because I had to get a master's for that, people were telling me, you know, are you sure you want to apply to that school? Are you sure you want to, you know, you don't have a really good chance. Some people went as far as saying, you know, being Latino, I don't know that they're really going to look at you. And that was Columbia. And I'm looking over my shoulder, over the camera right there, and there's my degree from Columbia. Because people told me I couldn't, and I said, no, I think I can. And I'll never forget the day my mom called me while I was walking from one class to another on campus.
Yeah.
She got the letter at home, and I said, hey, just open it, read it. And it was my acceptance letter, and it was just a special moment. She's reading it, and she's crying, and I'm sitting there, I'm crying in the middle of campus. And it was just a great moment, you know, coming from growing up on welfare and being told I couldn't, or trying to be convinced like, hey, you should do this or do that, and just refusing and saying, no, I know what I'm capable of doing. I know what I've seen and what I've been through. I know what I can do. And now I was on my way to going to an Ivy League school. And it was just a very proud moment for myself and my family. So it was great. But I got into education because I had the experience of someone who did a poor job of it. And I knew that I could make a better difference. And that just really fueled me because I wanted to guide students in the right direction.
Man, I love to hear those kind of stories when someone says you can't do it. You shouldn't do it. What are you thinking of? And you keep them all wrong. There's not a better feeling inside, things like that. Well, we'll take a quick break, but after the break, I want to talk a little bit about some of the personal things you had to go through the last couple of years, and your focus on the future and what you're doing. So we'll take a quick break. Audience, stay tuned. We'll have a lot of fun there. But you're in the office with Joseph Skoda and Dr. Eusebio Martinez. We'll talk to you soon. Bye now.
New hat, next break.
Yep, new hat, next break. All right, you're back in the office with Joseph Skoda, retired Joseph Skoda, G.I. Joe. And since Eusebio's got his hats on, and I almost always have one, this is all I have at the moment. So I'm proud to wear my cap, and I know you're proud to wear yours, and pretty excited. You were telling us a little about your journey from moving to New York out to lovely California, being a school counselor, working up as a principal in several different schools, and it brought in your horizons and the different experiences, and it's pretty exciting, the journey you've taken. Now, I've known you, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now, and I've seen a big transformation in your life, mostly in being physically fit, where a lot of us struggle with weight loss and things like that. But tell us a little bit, tell our audience here a little bit about your journey and what you've done.
Yeah, it's been a journey. Actually, I call it an expedition because it's like a climb. It's got all types of things within it. I always grew up, I was always a big boy. I always had the weight issues, and call it what it is, growing up in poverty, not having the best access to good food, not being as active as I could be, all of that just spiraled to the point where I was starting my career as a counselor. I was 25 years old, weighing 545 pounds. And I mean, every day was just, even though I held it well, I was still young, still strong. On the inside, I was definitely dying. And I would sweat doing everything. I just had issues with my back and everything else. One day I go to do something very simple. I went to stand up to go get a copy from the machine. And I felt like something just yanked the spine out of my back. I have broken bones before. I have had major surgeries, which I'll touch on in a bit. And I never felt pain like I did in those moments. As a matter of fact, when I finally made it home, I was screaming so much, my mom thought I was being killed. Like she was like, "What is going on?" So I just did some damage to my nerves and discs in my back from the weight I had to bear. And I found myself at 25 years old going to the chiropractor 3 times a week for adjustments. And at that point, it was actually the chiropractor, ironically, who asked me about bariatric surgery. And up until that point, to be perfectly honest, I was one of those guys with machismo who was like, "Oh, I'll lose the weight when I want, and it's not a big deal," and all that. But as I'm sitting on that, getting adjustments, sitting on that chair 3 times a week, and I'm saying, I need some help. I had really had to be honest with myself and have that real crucial conversation with myself and say, I need some help. So I finally took him on it, and I said, yeah, you know what? I would like to know about that. So I went through the process about 8 months later, because you have to get clearances and things like that. I did. I had gastric bypass surgery. Since then, I had lost 280 pounds with the surgery. Now, this was back in 2008. Lost the weight in the mostly first 2 years or so. Then I met a woman and eventually got married, and I got comfortable, as a lot of us do. And I learned how to cook on top of that. So it was like the perfect storm for me to put on 100 pounds of that back. So that took a couple of years to happen. But by the end, when my divorce was basically a foregone conclusion, I found myself 100 pounds heavier than I was after like my lowest post-surgery weight. And I didn't feel good about myself. And I had a choice to make. And it was around that time that I decided, I want to do things for myself. It's actually when I started to go to Toastmasters because I wanted to be able to tell my story in a better way. And then I started being more serious with my own eating and my health and things of that nature amidst the stress of divorce and student loan debt and life, right? But fast forward now, and I am less than 10 pounds away from that post-surgery lowest weight. So back down to that weight. And I feel great. And I actually have started to talk about my own journey. I have a Facebook group called Seesaws and Surgery. And because it's all about seesaw diets and how we kind of go up and down, but then surgery, not just a gastric bypass, but my most recent expedition, and that's skin removal. Because you can imagine, having lost that much weight, you're going to have loose skin. At least a good number of us do. There are those lucky souls who don't have to do as much, and we don't talk about them. But really, skin surgery, that's been the last year and a half of my life. I do have one more major surgery to go for the full transformation. But yeah, last year I started with my abdomen. Yes. Then over the winter, and I do this when I have breaks from school. So any kind of long break that I have.
Makes sense.
My winter break, I did my chest and my arms. And then this, about 3 weeks ago, I started my leg surgery. And I say started because it's actually a 2-part series. But all that to say that I have taken control of my health and really trying to do everything I need to do. Is it perfect? No. And I tell people all the time, give yourself grace. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Rome wasn't built in a day, and every other cliche you could think of because it's the truth. I didn't get to 545 pounds overnight, so I knew I wasn't going to lose it overnight. But it's that progress, not perfection. It's saying little by little, I'm going to make these choices that are going to be good for me. And what's good for me may not be good for you, may not be good for the next person, but we all have something we can do. And that's kind of with my page and everything else, is saying, hey, let me educate you on this in case you have this weight issue, or if you're considering it, or you know somebody who's considering it. And it's really blessing a lot of people because they say, man, it's really inspirational, it's motivational, I'm learning a lot. And it's just nice to see, like, it's possible. It's totally possible. So that's been my recent, on top of being an administrator. Sure. and doing that, it's been great. It's been great.
That does sound challenging. And besides maybe wanting to eat more like the rest of us do, is it not an addiction, but are you constantly being challenged with different ways you have to live your life till you don't go back to that? What are some of the biggest challenges?
100%. I do believe that it is an addiction of sorts. And here's the deal with that.
Yeah.
When you have a drug addiction,
mm-hmm.
you don't need drugs to do really anything in life. Now, when you get to the point of addiction, it helps you function, and that's why it's so hard and withdrawals are so tough. Here's the problem with food. You need food. You need food. And as an educator especially, you go to that staff lounge, donuts, there's some sort of tree, someone's celebrating a birthday, someone had a baby, whatever it is. Here's the deal. You celebrate with food. You mourn with food. You do business with food. You just hang out with food. It's part of our everyday life. So it really is a challenge because it becomes, okay, knowing that this is so pervasive and knowing that this is everywhere, what do I need to do to prepare for that? Because one thing I always tell people, there are support groups of people who are considering surgery and then even after surgery. One thing that I said that always gets people is, guys, you have to remember, they do not operate you up here. They don't. You have about 18 months from the moment of surgery where the surgery kind of works. It does its job.
Sure.
And that's depending on the surgery. It's you're not absorbing as many of the calories, or the stomach is so small you just can't eat as much. About 18 months of that before your body, the way that we're created, it always tries to achieve homeostasis. You will start to absorb those calories again. Your stomach will stretch to a certain point. And all things being equal, you'll put on maybe 10, 15 pounds. It's a bounce back. It's something that's been shown that does happen. But that 18 months is basically a grace period for you to say, what do I need to do up here? What do I need to do in my everyday life to mitigate that, to take control, and so that when my body does absorb these calories again, I can burn them better. I can use them better because I'm also being more active and all those types of things. So it is an absolute daily challenge. This is something that is all the time. I meal prep because that helps me even cognitively. If I don't have to think about, well, what am I going to have for lunch?
Sure.
Then I can think about other things and use my energy for other things because I've already prepped it. That's one of the things that I do. But yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough. I deal with stress like anyone else. I get home, I'm tired like anyone else, and
Sure.
trying to be motivated like anyone else. But no, it's not a magic solution. It's just really a daily grind. You just have to want it.
Have to want it. I'm sure you had a good support system, at least most of the time. I don't think any of us can lose weight or give up any addiction if we don't have a good support system.
Right.
It's a great challenge, and we need it in all aspects of our lives. So
Right.
hopefully you had that going on. Now, I know you're counselor, educator, principal, weight loss, some other things you're involved with. What are some of the things you're doing today? I know some about skincare and some other things. What are you doing now that another hat? There it is. Time to switch the
Another
hat.
hat. Another hat.
Here you go. I wear this is the first
There you
hat
go. See?
I ever got
There
in
you
the
go.
Air Force, 3rd Equipment Maintenance Squadron, Clark Air Base, Philippines, a few years
I
ago.
love it. I love it. I switch hats during interviews. That's what I do today. That's what I
Oh,
do.
man.
The skincare business that I'm a part of really came from my surgeries. So about a year and a half ago, my girlfriend started going into this business, and it's Rodan and Fields for those who might be wondering, and started using it because she was like, "Hey, you need to use this." And when a girlfriend says you got to use it, you got to consider it, right?
Yep.
And then when I had my surgery, I realized, there's a part of this whole journey that people don't talk about, and that's the scars that you get. And in my case with my abdomen, I mean, you're talking one side of my body to the other. I mean, it's one of those long, gnarly, kind of old school scars. And I was like, okay, we got to treat this thing. And she said, hey, we have some things for that. So really that kind of bore the idea of getting into the business, because I started using it and realized, wow, this stuff really does work. And then I moved on when I had my chest and my arm surgery this past December. I said, well, hey, I'm not going to stop the freight train. I'm going to keep using that. And when I realized that I was starting to encourage people and speak about my journey and everything else, I said, you know what, that's a big piece of it too, is taking care of your body the right way. And if you have to use that for skincare, fantastic, because it does help. I'm going to have these scars regardless. I mean, the scar on my arm, if you can see, I mean, that goes down, and then underneath my chest, I mean, that's one long scar, and I have it on both sides. That's a reality. I'm going to have that forever. I mean, it's, I can call it a battle scar or whatever you want to call it. And I wear it proudly because I know exactly what it took to get there and to have that. But I also don't want it to look unsightly. And, so I'm doing what I need to do to take care of it. And we're changing lives, man. I mean, there are people that are growing in their confidence. They're speaking out. It's an interesting thing. Some of them, the most common thing that they're overcoming is public speaking. And I said, well, I know about that too. A little organization that I've been a part of, right?
Yep.
But it's just amazing how that, one thing is not everyone has the weight issue. Not everyone has the desire to go to school and get degrees. And that's the other thing, was writing my book a couple years back about that. But everyone has skin. Everyone has skin, and everyone wants to keep it going, and keep it in a good place for years to come. So that's one of those things that I'm definitely a part of, and running that business as well. The quarantine has been helpful in terms of just staying online, social media, and promoting it that way. And I appreciate even the chance to talk about it here. But yeah, just involved with a lot, and just trying to keep busy so that I can help impact lives. And I realize that I'm impacting lives even with this. And that's what makes it so fun for me. It's not about the money, the business part of it. It's saying, you know what, this person, they came out of their shell. This person feels more confident. This person is walking around with a greater level of self-respect. And that's awesome. That's awesome. Anytime you can do that, it's a beautiful thing.
I always say and remind myself and others, we're here to serve each other. We're here to share information. We're here to lift one another up. We're here to, hey, this is what you should try, or this works for me, or have you ever thought about? That's what we're here for. We're here to serve each other. Those are called blessings. Those are called little blessings that we do for one another, and that's pretty exciting how you do it in different ways. Yeah, this staying at home, this quarantine that we were in, it's less limited today than we were. It's been extremely beneficial. If you ever get on this virtual platform, Zoom, Skype, GoToMeeting, whatever you use, Messenger, you can reach more and more people. And I think you mentioned it because now you're not going out as much, you're able to focus a little bit better.
Right.
You're able to get that message out maybe more effectively, maybe less effectively, but different than you were before. And that just opens up new doors and windows. So who are you trying to, I don't know, who do you want to reach out today and say, hey, I've got some, let's talk. Who's your person you're looking for today to share your story?
For me, it's anyone who just feels like they're not at their best right now. Whether it's a physical issue, you're not in your best shape, whether it's your appearance and your skin's not where it wants to be, or quite frankly, just anyone who's struggling with this quarantine or trying to figure out, like, I don't know what to do right now. And you mentioned something, Joe, that really has resonated with me most recently was, what else can I do? I mean, I mentioned all the things that I'm doing, but that's because it was a very intentional thing for me to think about and say, what else can I get my hands on so that I'm not just identified as, oh, that's the principal.
Sure.
There's a point when that you become a one-trick pony, and you really, for me, I don't want to be that. I don't. So even being an assistant principal allows me more of that balance where I can come home, I can work out, and the gyms are closed now. I mean, they're going back to being closed. But guess what? We invested in one of those Pelotons. Best thing I could have done. I mean, I've stayed in shape during the quarantine. I just got clearance to be active after my procedure, and I jumped on that thing, which I'm very happy about. Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, again, can everyone do that? No, not everyone can do that. But there is something you can do. You can always do something to be active. You can do something in the kitchen to eat, make a better choice. You can take care of yourself in a lot of different ways. So really anyone who feels like I'm just not at my best. And the other thing is, even though I wrote my book 2 years ago, I've released it over 2 years ago, just the idea that, you know what, a college degree is not something that everyone's going to pursue. I'm actually speaking with a gal now who wants to go into personal training. And I told her, hey, you can go to the college route, or you have these other programs. This quarantine has been a very interesting thing because colleges are having kids do their education online. Yeah. And a lot of those students are saying, hey, I don't really feel like this is any different than this program I could do somewhere else. And we're paying all this money now, and I'm home just like my kid brother or sister who's in high school. Yeah. So it's an interesting time. And here's the deal. Those essential workers and everything else, I mean, the stress that they're under is unprecedented. Sure. It's like nothing they've ever seen. Is that something that you really want to do? And do you really have to go the depths of being a doctor to do that? No. There's so many essential workers that you can do just a couple years, or you can go into a credential program and you can do that. And it's just as valuable. I mean, every single one of those workers, the phlebotomist, the x-ray technician, all the way to the surgeons, they're all valuable. And every single one of them is important to us. And we tip our caps to all of them.
That's right.
I don't see anyone as being different. They're all in it together. And yet they all have different, various degrees and all those things. So it's just one of those things that even if you're struggling with that and saying, hey, I just don't know what to do with my education, I don't know what steps to take, reach out. I'm really looking for folks that are just like struggling with something that they're just not in their best place, or they have questions, and just want to bring them into a community of people who can help them out.
No, that's a real good point. What differentiates ourselves from other people? Just we're striving for more. We don't want to be known as the principal or as Air Force guy, or as a, and I help, I'll do my best to help others brand themselves. Who are you? What do you represent? Is it weight loss? Is it scientist? Is it doctor? Just how do we brand ourselves? It should be all of that. Someone would say, you got your act together. I want someone to look at me and say, you got your act together. Although be far from the truth, but I like to know the good stuff's coming out where people say, yeah, you got it going on. And I think that's something we should all strive for. And you brought up a good point too. Even though you and I are professionals and got that formal education, that's not necessary for most people. I did it not necessarily for career moves, but it was my own self-development. Is my own. I was the only one in my family has a college degree. Now I have 5, but that doesn't mean I'm better or smarter than any of them. It's just one of my goals I had to go after. It's like being a distinguished Toastmaster. Something I had to go after, and whatever it is. And I always recommend, the janitor, the baker, the butcher, the candlestick maker. Just be the best one you can be. It doesn't matter where we are in life. We should all be equal, or at least think of ourselves that way. Sure, some of us are smarter than others. Okay, some of us earn a little bit more or deserve a little bit more. Okay, but we're still equal, and we're all in supportive roles helping each other. I think that's how we should live.
And we all have different talents. So what I have to think about was, well, what are the things I'm interested in? What are those things besides school that are part of my daily life? And I realized when I started really thinking about it, there's quite a bit, right? There's my weight loss journey, and I have all the insight of having gone through these surgeries and what that means and what it entails. There's my enjoyment in the kitchen, coming up with different recipes or thinking about different ways to make a meal that normally wouldn't be a meal that I eat into something that I would eat now. Then there's, just any number of things that it's like, hey, I have interests that go beyond what school is. And some of them are vastly different. And now even growing into the skincare industry and saying, hey, I have an interest in that as well, and helping people change lives. But regardless of what it is, you're right. We all have all these different talents. It's just a matter of saying, instead of the traditional mold of you have to be something, this is what you need to aspire to be, and that's who you're going to be. I have to tell you, those are some of the most unhappy people you will find, because they feel like I'm one-dimensional.
Yep.
As they start to branch out and they have hobbies or they have different things they do, now they start to develop more of themselves, and they're happier. So I think there's happiness in the diversity of things. Do different stuff.
Yeah.
Do different stuff, and you'll realize, like, oh, I actually like doing that. I like painting or drawing or crocheting or, whatever it is. And who knows? It's something you might be able to share with other people and help them out. But if nothing else, just do different things that are not just about what you do 9 to 5. Because at that point, then you start to resent that as well, saying, I don't have a life, or I don't have any other interest, or I'm boring, or I'm miserable, or I just don't have the gusto to do anything. And then you start to resent the very thing that you aspired to be all those years, and that was a big part of your life all that time. And now you're just like, I want out. And it's tough. It's tough because in these times, you can't necessarily go and find something else to do, something new. It's tough.
The longer we take to decide, I made a mistake, sometimes it's too late. And I have a good friend of mine. He's a medical doctor, lives in my neighborhood. I was tearing apart an engine one day, and he just happened to drive by. He's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm tearing apart this engine in my Chevelle over here. He's like, need help? I'm like, well, why? Do you know someone? He's like, hold on. I love to do this in my spare time. I'm just a doctor. That's just what I do, but I love working on cars. And
Right.
All of us got those different hobbies and interests. A few years ago, I was afraid to speak in public. Afraid of it. Even though I retired from the military and now I'm speaking in front of 400, 500, 600 people online and offline. And it's just exciting because we don't know where our journey is gonna take us. We might live one more day. We may live 50 more years. We really don't know. And and we should always strive to be a little better, or learn a little bit more, touch someone's life in a different way. I think we should.
It's a great point, and I'll throw on another hat real quick.
Hold it. I got cheers.
Gotta do it. So here's the thing about that. You touched on something. When I realized that I was not coming back to my principal position in Greenfield, I thought to myself, maybe this is an opportunity to strike a balance, because being a principal, running a school, it's a heavy job. And it's a lot of hours, it's unpredictable. And now with coronavirus, I mean, it's exponentially worse. We're all going through it. But then I realized that what I was really saying was I just needed more diversity in my life. It wasn't necessarily that I needed a break from it or that I needed to somehow slow down or anything else. I mean, that's important. You want to rest, you need to rejuvenate.
Sure.
What it really have come to find that I need to tap into the other parts of me, the other parts of me that make me dynamic, those other parts of me that really I bring to the table and say, this is who I am. These are other things I can do. And I find myself doing less and less of the school things. I do them when I need to. I do them because obviously I have to. But when I do come to the table with them, I have a clearer mind because I don't have all these school tabs open in my head. There's this, there's this, there's this, there's this, and it's all school related, and it just burns you out. It wears you out. Whereas if I'm on that bike, or I'm making something in the kitchen, I'm meal prepping, or I'm helping somebody with skincare, or just hanging out and trying to find out different things that I can do, even with the quarantine. It's, to me, those are all those things that it's like, wow, I get to do that, find out different things of myself that I enjoy, that I can do well, so that when I do come back to work, I have a clear head and say, hey, I'm good. Let's talk about it. Let's do it. And I've become more efficient with that. So for me, the balance wasn't just about, I need time away from that. I need to rest. I need to chill. It's more like, hey, what else is there to me? What else can I do? And that's been the biggest revelation. And it's been fun just finding out all these different things I can do.
You're a very talented person. Well, I know, before you go, first of all, what's the name of your book and how do we find it?
So the book is called Degree or Not Degree, 5 Ways to Know if College is for You. You can find it on Amazon. You can look at it through my name.
Sure.
And
we'll definitely post it.
Yeah, it's been on Amazon this whole time. So you can find that. You can also find me in Facebook, my name, of course, but also my Seesaws and Surgery and Skincare page. I have those both on Instagram and Facebook because, I will post there. I'll engage with folks and say, hey, this is kind of the journey of my weight loss and answering any questions people have. But it's been a great ride, and I'm just really looking forward to what else comes next. And again, just trying to get past this COVID thing, but in the midst of that, making the most of it. I really feel like I'm going to come out of it in a much better place. So, I just appreciate that. I appreciate everyone for tuning in and listening. If I can be of any service to you guys, thank you so much. And Joe, I mean, great show. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on here anytime. And now that I'm going to be driving past you every single day, there you go.
Absolutely. No, it's good. Are there any parting thoughts you want for our audience out there? And before I let you go, and there's a lot to share, but any parting thought? Let's make it table topics out of it. 1 to 2 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, let's get back to that. There's a phrase in Spanish that says échale ganas. Échale ganas means go for it. Put some oomph in it. Put some energy in it. And really, it comes from a place of saying, hey, I know it's hard. I know that it's tough. I know you have your issues, but you have to push through that. You have to keep trying. We say that to students a lot of times because they're like, oh, I don't know, and this is tough and everything. No, échale ganas. Like, just go. Just try. And here's the deal with that. I never promise somebody that if you try with your best effort, you're going to get the desired result. But what I do tell them is that you're going to discover that you can actually handle more than you think you can handle. And in the midst of that, you're going to find out things about yourself that will then lead you to that desired result, because you then will become more dynamic. You'll get more creative in ways that oh, maybe I could try it this way, that way. You get more resourceful. You tap into people you may know. And then eventually you do get that result. And in the end, you realize, wow, I just had to really give of myself and put of myself to do that. And not always think of the traditional prescribed way of doing it, because that doesn't work for everyone, whether it's getting a degree, whether it's losing weight, whether it's just being your best self, taking care of your skin, whatever it is. There are no traditional ways of doing that. And you need to do what's best for you. But in the midst of that, échale ganas. Keep going, keep trying. You will discover more about yourself. Don't be afraid of it, and you will get to where you need to be.
You heard it here first. Échale ganas.
There you go.
I appreciate you, Eusebio, man. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a great afternoon, and just keep serving and doing what you're doing. We appreciate you, and I'm sure your community does very much. So, once again, appreciate you, Doctor. We will talk to you.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you all for tuning in and listening and watching. Like I said, you can get me on those handles online. And until the next one, maybe you'll see me again. Who knows?
We will. All right. But we'll share his information on our social media shows network. And you're in the office. You have yourself a great day. Remember, make every day count, because we don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Cheers.
Find us on any social media platform, Instagram, of course, Facebook. Like, subscribe, share. We appreciate it. Let us know your thoughts and join our team. Anyways, we appreciate you staying tuned week after week, day after day, because we continuously build up our network to bring to you what you're asking for. Have a great day.